Welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, a spiritual community whose hope is audacious and whose vision is for a more equitable and just world for all. I'm Reverend Anthony Makar, senior minister of this community, and joining me this morning are Dave Blazer, music director, Judy Marison, worship associate, Christine, Danny, and Luca, who are our tech folks this morning, enabling people beyond these walls to be able to join worship with us today. Welcome everyone to this community of worship. There are so many joys in our world, and there's also so much suffering, so many conflicts, and not enough compassion. May this worship hour be one which magnifies our joys and brings to each of us the healing and the hope that we may be needing today. A special welcome to you if you are a newcomer in our midst, gay or straight, cisgender or transgender, whatever your race or ethnicity, you are welcome here. And whether you are in the sanctuary here or you are participating at home, welcome all, one and all. Now, I'd like to spotlight two things this morning. First of all, our adult lifelong learning team is offering some great programs this fall, good things for mind, heart, and soul. You should have received a copy of the brochure called Explore. You should have received a copy of this in your email, so please check that out. Paper copies are also available in the brochure rack. And if you are interested in a class, please either register on Realm, call the church office, or stop by the front office on Sunday morning, this morning. And I'll say I'm offering a spirituality retreat, so at the very least, please check that out. I'd love to see you participate in that event I am leading. And now, this announcement.
Class, now come to order. It's time for... Class, now come to order. It's time for our big, important lesson. Order in the court! Order in the court! That will be enough, Miss Pincus. Please get out your homework notes. Today's topic is West Shore Service Auction and Fundraiser. Now, who can tell me this year's theme? Yes? Ooh la la, sis boo ba, na 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 na, ha cha cha. Miss Pincus, sit down.
It's Ooh La La, a sparkling evening in Paris.
Correct. And what is the date of this spectacular event? Yes?
November 19th, 2021.
Perfect. As we know, there are two parts to this spectacular event, the silent auction and the live auction. What details will we need to know?
You have to come in your underwear! That the silent auction will be virtual on Zoom and will last 1 week. And that the live auction will be a big party in Baker Hall with hors d'oeuvres, drinks, music, and dessert. And it will be virtual on Zoom too.
Very good. And of course, we cannot forget that the success of the auction depends upon...
Who the answers?
Oh.
On donations from the congregation.
Exactly. And it's so very simple. All you need to do is send in the form that was mailed to you, or go to West Shore's website and click on the service auction link, or click on the link that will be available in each edition of West Shore e-News.
Or Debbie Elliott can give you one.
Good.
See? And it has to be in by November 1st.
Yes.
And it has to be completed in French.
Oh, please, let's not forget the 50-50 raffle. The more tickets you buy, the greater your chances of winning half the pot. Just get your tickets on round.
Or call Sue Banana. Sue Hannah.
Oh, okay, ladies. Despite the occasional interference,
What?
I think we've covered the main points. Now there's just one more very important fact that we need to cover.
It's going to be really fun!
Ooh la la, ooh la la.
Good morning. Every week we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It is a beautiful reminder that no matter how many jarring events might happen over the course of the week, the gathered community here that is West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church is a source of stability and meaning that we can depend on. I'll light our chalice now with these words. May the light from this chalice reignite us into the flame of compassion and the wisdom to share our compassion wisely. Let us now witness to the unity of our spirit by saying together our unison affirmation words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio su ley. Este es nuestro magnífico convenio, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
So may it be. And now we turn to our time of greeting, where we remember that Unitarian Universalism isn't something we do alone, but it is a vision and an energy that gathers people together in community so that we can accomplish things that could never happen if we each acted singly and separately and apart. We are beloved community, and we greet each other now. If you are worshiping at home with us, you are invited to share the names of people you are holding in your personal thoughts and prayers this morning. Please do that by typing the names into our West Shore Facebook chat. One of the names we want to lift up right now is that of Len Abrams. Len passed away yesterday afternoon. Len is the husband of Marty Travis, and we are sending her comfort and love in this time, together with Len's family and friends. And now for the folks who are worshiping here in our sanctuary, I invite you to turn around, look at the choir loft, greet the folks at home. Just wave and say hello to the folks at home. Thank you. Now I invite you to turn to folks here in our sanctuary. Greet each other from a distance with a namaste gesture or waving a hand, whatever feels comfortable and safe for you. Let's greet each other now. This has been our greeting time, where we remember we are not alone amidst the trials and turning points of life, but that we are held in the arms of a wondrous love. And this is our hymn for right now, number 18 in your gray hymnal, What Wondrous Love. And I invite you to use what Dave Blazer likes to say, our inner voice. Yeah, so just to hum along or just to join us quietly as we sing.
Today. In preparing for this reflection, I began by looking back in my life for a significant time when I experienced compassion fatigue. Having worked primarily in nonprofit organizations, there were several occasions when I felt like I had certainly given my all. And then I thought about when I was primary caregiver to both my parents when their health was seriously declining. Boy, what emotionally and physically draining times those were. Well, I decided to take a break from all that thinking and check my email. I stared at my inbox, moving from message to message, wondering which were the most important and what should I open. That's when it hit me that I, and probably most of you, have been in the midst of a long period of compassion fatigue, illustrated by email messages. Let me just read you some of the messages that I received just in the last week. First one, new My Chart message from the Cleveland Clinic. Well, that one's probably reminding me to confirm the date for my colonoscopy. I'm in no hurry to confirm that one. Delete. Next one. Highlights from the Women's March for Reproductive Rights. Oh, I really should read this because I missed the march. I was just not feeling well that day. I'll read that later. Next. Visualizing Biden's vaccine mandate. Well, I know I should read this. I need to keep up with news about the pandemic. I'll read it later, though. Next. It's gerrymandering season. Oh gosh, I really should read this. I know we need to change the way we do redistricting. Definitely for reading later. Next, $1 million challenge for ACLU's Fight for Democracy. Wait, I already gave them money. Why do they keep sending these? Delete. Next, a friend wants you to like a page on Facebook. Well, that should be really quick and easy. I'll do that when I'm finished here. Next. It's time for your donation to the Arthritis Foundation. Wait a minute, I just did that. Oh, now I need to check to see if it was actually received, and that takes so much time. I'll do that tomorrow. Next. Your $1 is worth $10 in food for families. Geez, I already give to them monthly. I just can't give any more donations. Delete. Next. What we learned from the Facebook whistleblower. I already know the answer to that. Stop using Facebook. Delete. Rocky River Democrats, October 12th club meeting agenda. Well, I really ought to get more involved with them, especially with the election coming. I'll read this later. Next. Let's take back our communities. Wow, that sounds really important, but that's a new sender. I've never heard of this person. I just don't have much time. I hate to, but delete. Next, last day for 60% off all photo items. Oh no, I wanted to have enlargements made from our vacation photos. I don't think I have time today. Darn it. Next. Because fighting hunger saves lives. It's another sender I never heard of. Delete. Next. Will Republicans help avert financial Armageddon? Oh, geez, I just can't read another story about the conflicts in Washington. Delete. And then, next, new My Chart from the Cleveland Clinic. Delete. Now, two more emails that you would surely think I would want to open. First, 7-day anxiety-melting stoic meditation course. Wow. And, excuse me, tools for peace and productivity when working from home. You know, even those sound intimidating for me and way too much time consuming. Delete, delete. Finally came the email I truly wanted to open. This was the one that offered something simple and special just for me. And that was self-care sale, 25% off beauty, body, and more. Select. Stay.
And now I want to introduce you to a guest among us this morning, Emma Keeshan, lead organizer of Showing Up for Racial Justice, or SURGE, here to speak about the canvassing initiative West Shore is being invited to participate in next Sunday and the Sunday after that. Just a little about Emma. Seeking to understand where she fit as a white person in the movement for racial justice, she joined the SURGE Northeast Ohio chapter in 2015 when it was being founded. Before joining SURGE full-time, Emma worked in policy advocacy for the ACLU and as an organizer with the Bernie Sanders 2020 campaign and Pennsylvania United, a multiracial, grassroots, member-led organization in Western Pennsylvania that ran a large, deep canvass program during the 2020 presidential election. She loves cooking, growing flowers, and spending time at Lake Erie's beautiful beaches. Welcome, Emma. Show her some love. Welcome, Emma.
Hello, and thank you for having me. I have deep love for West Shore. Your congregation lent Baker Hall to SURGE in the first 2 years of our existence as a local chapter. It is here that I showed up on a weekday evening in October 2015, the weather not unlike today's. I was 20 years old and fresh out of college, 1 year after the uprisings in Ferguson, Missouri left an imprint on my soul. And I drove with 2 friends to this very church for one of the first general meetings of SURGE here in Northeast Ohio, and I began my journey of figuring out my role in the movement for racial justice. I'm happy that SURGE and West Shore are partnering again. Our work as SURGE is to bring more and more white people into supporting the Black and people of color-led struggle. That's why this fall, we are knocking doors and having conversations in the Old Brooklyn neighborhood, one of Cleveland's whitest wards, to grow support for Issue 24 for real police accountability. Issue 24 will appear on the November 2nd ballot, only 3 weeks away, for City of Cleveland voters. It was written by a diverse and beautiful coalition led by families who have lost loved ones to police violence here in Cleveland, and it would ensure that police can no longer just police themselves. SURGE has identified 5,000 residents in that neighborhood that we most need to talk to. And we have work to do in these final 3 weeks to make that happen. These conversations have been amazingly effective. So many people commit on the spot to supporting Issue 24. We just have to talk to more people. I am here to extend that invitation to you, yes, you, to join us in it. These next 2 Sunday afternoons, the 17th at 1 p.m. with lunch before and Reverend Anthony himself, and the 24th at 3 p.m. Congregation members Margaret and Brian Gardner are kindly opening their backyard to us to meet before we canvass. We will give you a comprehensive training on our canvassing script, pair you up with a buddy, and head out to talk to residents. In this time when the world feels heavy all around us and so many things are demanding our time, canvassing is so grounding. You get to walk down the sidewalk, knock on a resident's door, and for those next 10 minutes, all you have to do, all you must do, is focus on the face that appears in the doorway. You have to be present with them, present with yourself, and ask questions to draw out their experiences and beliefs. We don't debate, we don't spew statistics, because that doesn't work. We connect. We ask questions and learn about their story. The skills you all have as people of faith, of reckoning with how to build a beloved community with one another and with those beyond these walls, those skills are exactly what you need to be successful. After just 3 hours of being with us, you will have accomplished something meaningful. You will have won support from residents that previously had never heard of Issue 24, or who had heard fear-mongering about police accountability, but your connection with them will have changed their minds. It happens every time. In just 2 afternoons, you can help bring us closer to a Cleveland where all neighborhoods feel safe and secure. I invite you because this is a beautiful thing to be a part of. We are building something really powerful together. To be part of it, please find Bridget in the courtyard after the service, or myself, or online through the all-church email that went out last week. We cannot wait to be with you.
With thanks for this congregation that rallies us together to make good trouble in our world, and with a sober recognition that without people's gifts of time and money, this congregation would not exist, and the world would be much lesser for it. The morning's offering will now be given and gratefully received. Let's now extend this peaceful musical moment, this moment of graceful music, music full of grace. Let's extend it into a time of meditation. Close your eyes. If you wish, scrunch your shoulders up almost to your ears, and then just, let them drop. Do that one more time. Scrunch your shoulders all the way to your ears, and just, let them drop. Practice emptying breathing with me, which is inhaling to the count of 3, and then exhaling slowly to the count of 6, releasing as much air as you can. So inhaling, 1, 2, 3, and then exhaling all the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more time. Inhaling. 1, 2, 3, and then exhaling all the way out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When despair for the world grows in me, writes Wendell Berry in his poem entitled The Peace of Wild Things. And I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be. I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. We begin with the book by Fran Hawthorne entitled The Overloaded Liberal: Shopping, Investing, Parenting, and Other Daily Dilemmas in an Age of Political Activism. She starts out with some humor shtick that sounds a whole lot like Jeff Foxworthy. You might be an overloaded liberal if you hide the snack you brought to the playground for your 5-year-old, even though it is healthy and non-sugary, because, oh my God, you forgot you were supposed to boycott that food company. You might be an overloaded liberal if you drive 5 miles out of your way and pay 30% more to buy a screwdriver at the little independent hardware store just to avoid having to shop at Walmart. You might be an overloaded liberal if you try to calculate your carbon emissions in driving that extra 5 miles versus the carbon footprint you would cause by turning on your computer to order that same screwdriver online. You might be an overloaded liberal if you stand in line for 10 minutes debating whether to buy imported organic blueberries or non-organic blueberries that are local. That's Fran Hawthorne, putting her finger on what it's like to be a lifestyle activist, or someone who's trying to make the world a better place through more thoughtful lifestyle choices about how they spend their money. And this is a good thing. May all of us strive to be lifestyle activists, but it can indeed lead to overwhelm. No act is 100% pure. There are always trade-offs. Maybe the best we can do is the least harm, but at times the action that does the least harm can be hard to confidently discern. There must be a point when we pray, may I show up, may I pay attention, may I do what I can, and then may I let go. There's got to be a point when this prayer enters into our hearts and our minds and it softens our bodies. It sends us into other parts of our lives where we aren't trying to fight the good fight, but instead we are enjoying the life that has been given to us, the life that can be enjoyed. A good cup of coffee, a walk in the park, a dinner party with friends, puttering around in the garden, laughter. There has got to be a point. Otherwise, we risk experiencing compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue. Being emotionally overwhelmed to the point of paralysis and numbness. Compassion fatigue. Believing that what you do, what others do, makes not one bit of difference. Originally, compassion fatigue was something observed in healthcare professionals. These professionals could be at the front lines of trauma, like a police officer, a paramedic, or an emergency room nurse. Or they could witness people's trauma at second hand, as, for example, a minister listening to a parishioner talk about being traumatized in some way. People in such professions are placed again and again in the way of emotionally overwhelming scenes of suffering, and, as was also observed, if the professional was not careful to take time away for self-renewal and self-care, they would inevitably find themselves anxious, depressed, disturbed, irritable, exhausted, and essentially compromised in their ability to do their job. And it only gets worse. Compassion fatigue, it was also found, damages the caregiver's basic worldview. It's not just about emotional numbness or being able to feel feelings of caring. It's about losing hope. It's about starting to believe sincerely that what good you are doing or the good that others are doing makes not one bit of difference. Dr. Chavi Karkowski, a medical doctor in New York City, speaks to this in a recent article of The Atlantic. She says that the time before the COVID-19 vaccine was available was bad enough for medical professionals working away at the front lines. But the resulting level of compassion fatigue only worsened once vaccines became available, because these doctors, like her, witnessed the incredible, that there were and are so many vaccine refusers whose refusal risks the lives of the many around them as well as their own lives. This, says Dr. Karkowski, has led to no less than a shattering of healthcare professionals' basic faith in humanity, faith that people can come together to solve problems. That is how bad compassion fatigue can get. Another medical doctor, Rachel Naomi Remen, she says it so well. She says the expectation that we can be immersed in suffering and loss daily and not be touched by it is as unrealistic as expecting to be able to walk through water and not get wet. Our world is a world of brokenness which needs so much caring. But when caregivers show up, pay attention, and do what they can without there also being times of stepping back and letting go, the tragic consequence is only more brokenness in our world, only more suffering. Our prayer must be, may I show up? May I pay attention? May I do what I can? And then, may I let go? Now, so far, I have explored compassion fatigue in its original sense of pertaining to the healthcare professions. But how many of you are like Judy? You know, you're not in an official caring profession. You're not in that. And yet you can honestly say, for one reason or another, I have experienced compassion fatigue in the past, or I am experiencing it right now. How many of you can relate to Judy? Yeah. Compassion fatigue is its own kind of pandemic. Elsa Gabbert, writing for the Guardian newspaper, helps articulate one big reason why there are so many folks beyond the healthcare professions who are feeling compassion fatigue also. It is true, she says, if it is true, she says, that empathy is a necessary motivator for making the world a better place, what happens when we feel bombarded every day with the details of local and global disasters, with every shocking crime, political scandal, and climate calamity here and beyond? If caregivers are at risk because they give care to the traumatized, then empathetic news consumers are at risk because they consume the news. Just opening Twitter on your phone or looking at the TV in a bar exposes you to enormous problems you can't possibly solve. Perhaps you can help, but the difference that an individual contribution makes, placing a call, voting, going to a protest, it often feels imperceptible. It was Mother Teresa who once said, "If I look at the Mass, I will never act. If I look at the one, I will." But our world today, it makes it so hard to look at just the one. Tragedies around the world are instantly broadcast onto our smartphones or into our living rooms. Graphic images of horrible suffering nearby and far away are piled onto whatever suffering we may be dealing with closer to home. There is, in particular, the global tragedy of climate change, and I will tell you, a rate of species extinction that boggles the mind. Fran Hawthorne's jokes, which we heard a moment ago, that you might be an overloaded liberal if, they're just but the top layer of a deeper despair about the immensity of what is happening to our shared earth. So of course, our small attempts at lifestyle activism can soon feel overwhelming. Of course. In the face of so much horror, how do we preserve compassion and prevent becoming numb? We must also ask, in the face of such an onslaught, how we might retain genuine feistiness and joy in our activism. "If I can't dance," said the unforgettable Emma Goldman, "I don't want to be part of your revolution." So, may I show up, may I pay attention, may I do what I can, and then may I let go. But what if we can't let go? What if we're reading an online article that presents a 10-point checklist for how to step back and let go, and it all sounds so good, but we just can't go there? What if the minister tells us that it is so vital we step back and let go at times, and one part of us definitely agrees, but another part, the part that's stronger in us, just can't agree? What if? So we need to go deeper. And I want to do this by starting with the situation of making yourself, myself, yourself endlessly available to the 24/7 news cycle. Every email you get sent. You feel you must read. The news app on your smartphone, you check that thing hourly, maybe even more than hourly. Your favorite news channel on TV, you never miss it. And so on ad infinitum. Honestly, when I catch myself doing this, I wonder if I do it because I think that this in itself is a form of actually accomplishing something. That being virtually plugged in becomes a way of creating actual positive change in our world. And the more I think about this, the more I see that I may be fooling myself. Making myself endlessly available to the news only creates the illusion that I am doing something. Meanwhile, there are things that I could actually be accomplishing right in my backyard, like canvassing in old Brooklyn so that I might help influence how folks vote on the issue of community oversight of policing in Cleveland. And since I am so stressed out about all the news that I endlessly consume, well, I have no energy left anyhow to give to the canvassing effort. I and maybe you need to see through this illusion. I and maybe you need to remember those powerful words of Mother Teresa and say them to ourselves like a mantra. If I look at the mass, I will never act. If I look at the one, I will. So what can your one thing be? Your one concrete action, your one way of getting proximate with results that in no way will be illusory. What can your one thing be? But now, like a kaleidoscope, I want to turn the dial and see this issue of not being able to step back and not being able to let go. I want to see it from a different perspective. This time, we are not talking about the endless news cycle. This time, we are talking about the stream of invitations that come to you to do something and you just can't say no. You just can't. Well, why is that? For some people, it is a feeling of meaninglessness in one's life, which is intolerable. We are fundamentally spiritual beings having a human experience, and so to feel meaninglessness is the worst. This, in turn, makes a person extremely vulnerable to being recruited to some kind of war, whether it is of the physical type involving bombs and bullets, or of the ideological type and fought with rallies and symbols and activism of various kinds. You know, I spoke to this issue of war, at least in the physical sense, in my previous sermon entitled Understanding War. In it, I said, war and the warlike mentality is addictive. It is a spiritual addiction. Create an enemy. Create an urgency. Insist that patriotism means unconditional obedience to whatever the authorities happen to say, and all of a sudden, spirits that were aimless and scattered, they are now given direction and value. Now they become sharp and dangerous instruments for leaders to use. If you feel that you can't ever step back and can't ever let go, I am gently asking you, have you become a moral soldier? Have you become a moral soldier? Have you started to see our world as a world of warfare, and you are on the side of absolute right, and the others you fight against are on the side of absolute wrong? In a time of warfare, taking time to smell the roses is simply detestable. Time for irresponsibility, for fun, that's detestable. I would also add, in a time of warfare, taking time for thoughtfulness and individuality, detestable. If we are moral soldiers Under wartime conditions, whether physical or ideological, we are obligated to follow the orders of our superiors without question and to never say no. You know, our spiritual tradition of Unitarian Universalism does not teach this kind of vision of life. In pursuit of our 7 principles, and perhaps an 8th, Unitarian Universalism does not ask us to take on what is actually an ancient view of the world, a Zoroastrian view, which divides the world into children of light and children of darkness. Instead, Unitarian Universalism says that in this world that we want to heal, we must heal it together, this brokenness. And as we do that, we must acknowledge ambiguity and complexity. We must honor the organic mystery of how things actually come to be, which so often defy our linear ideas. We must admit that our best laid plans to solve problems can often create problems that are even worse, the ones we tried to solve. We must marvel at how the people who seem to be our worst enemies can be closer to us in spirit than we had ever imagined. This complexity is evident in a famous statement that Dr. King himself echoed in his great sermon entitled Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution, but it originally came from 19th century Unitarian preacher Theodore Parker. Here it is, the original words. I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but a little way. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure. By the experience of sight, I can divine it by conscience, and from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice. That is not the statement of a moral soldier carrying out infallible orders. This is the statement of one who shows up, pays attention, does what they can, and then lets go, because they know that no set of orders can calculate the moral arc's curve, which outruns everyone's capacity to see. They hope for a better world. They play their part, and they respect the ultimate mystery of the outcome. As a side note, let me say that as we anticipate a full turnout on behalf of Surge's canvassing efforts in the old Brooklyn area, let each of us see this as an opportunity for peacemaking. Warfare is when people with differences are not talking, aren't relating to each other as people with humanity in common, but we will be doing the complete opposite of that. In fact, we will be doing something similar to what has been called deep canvassing, which has been proven to be effective in diverting people away from prejudice and becoming more open and more compassionate. Essentially, in deep canvassing, if you meet someone whose views you find prejudicial or uncaring, you don't call them out. You don't slap them with your fury. Instead, you do something more radical. You listen non-judgmentally to their story. You begin a conversation. This is peacemaking. So I am praying this prayer today. May we show up. May we pay attention. May we do what we can. And then may we let go. Because what is at stake is sustaining compassion in a world that needs compassion and responds to compassion. In warfare, physical or ideological, there is no compassion at all. But there are still other reasons why a person may not be able to step back and let go. There still are other reasons. It could be because anger has you in its grip. It could be because guilt has you in its grip, and I get it. I get it. Yet anger and guilt are not effective and healthy strategies for activism. Because when you're looking through those lenses, you can't see straight. You can't act effectively. Anger as a main strategy can be bull in a china shop destructive. Guilt as a main strategy can make a person paternalistic in ways that are insulting the folks we are supposed to be helping. As Dr. King once said, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. So we must ask enlightening questions about what is behind the anger, what is behind the guilt. Perhaps what is behind it is grief and loss. Perhaps what is behind it is trauma. Such things need loving. Such things need healing. Don't get me wrong. Anger and guilt are valuable. Anger and guilt are telling us something important, but not when they are squeezing the life out of us and causing us to compulsively act in unhelpful ways, I might add, until we are burned out to a crisp. Stepping back and letting go may require the deepest of deep work, which is self-understanding and healing. But it saves us in the end. It saves our compassion. One becomes able to say sometimes to all the invitations to get involved, not this time, maybe later. One becomes able to turn off the TV, turn away from the 24/7 news cycle with all its tragedies and disasters for a time. And that's okay. We do this because we need to do this for the sake of preserving compassion and a worldview that affirms that what people do counts. However small the actions may be, they count. And maybe, just maybe, the joyful dancing that Emma Goldman so wanted her revolution to include can be possible. Possible in your revolution and in mine. So may it be. Let's now sing our closing hymn, number 199, Precious Lord, Take My Hand. miss you guys singing with us. Just to say, let's extinguish our flame.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again.
So just as a reminder, today's sermon chat will be on Zoom at 12:30 today. It's just a half hour long, so just to say, I'll meet you there on Zoom, 12:30. And now today's benediction from the book by Charlie Mackesy entitled The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. These words: when the big things feel out of control, focus on what you love right under your nose. So may it be. Ashe and Amen.